First class is full. Move to economy. Captain Derek Haines didn't ask for Dr. Simone Garrett's boarding pass, didn't verify her seat assignment, didn't check his manifest. He just looked at her cashmere sweater, her comfortable trousers, her absence of logos screaming wealth, and delivered those 6 words like airline policy loud enough for the jet bridge to hear. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. A businessman's Wall Street Journal froze halfway to his lap. A mother's hand tightened around her daughter's wrist. Eyes turned staring at the black woman blocking the aisle with nothing but her presence. Dr. Simone Garrett didn't move. Her spine stayed straight. Her breathing stayed even. Her face gave nothing away. She'd felt this moment 1,000 times before that instant when someone decides you don't belong before knowing a single thing about you. The weight of it pressed against her chest like cabin pressure during descent. Her hand moved to her phone. Not frantic, not shaking, just deliberate. In exactly 22 minutes, she would own Captain Derek Haynes's entire airline. But first, she needed witnesses. Before we step into this story, and believe me, you'll want every second I need something from you. Where are you watching this right now? Drop your city, your country, in the comments. And if you've ever been told you don't belong somewhere, you had every right to be hit that subscribe button. What happens next will redefine power, justice, and the price of assumptions. Gate 27. Skyward Airlines Flight 1847. JFK Terminal 5. Tuesday evening, 6:45 p.m. The Boeing 737-900 sat at the gate boarding for San Francisco. 189 passengers. The jet bridge smelled like recycled air and burnt coffee. Fluorescent lights flickered overhead, casting uneven shadows. Simone held her boarding pass seat 1A First Class Platinum Elite. Valid. Paid. Everything in order. Everything except Derek's assumptions. Behind her, passengers shifted weight from foot to foot. Someone cleared their throat. A carry-on bag scraped against the wall. The line wasn't moving, and tension filled the narrow space like fog rolling in. Derek stood at the galley entrance, arms crossed over his crisp uniform. 53 years old, silver hair perfect, captain's insignia gleaming, 27 years flying for Skyward. Commendations, awards, authority. Right now, he wasn't handling anything. He was creating a problem. Simone's voice came out steady. Not loud, not soft, just clear. This is my assigned seat. She raised the boarding pass. Derek's eyes never left her face. We need to keep boarding moving. Step aside and we'll sort this out after takeoff. There's nothing to sort out. I paid for 1A. I'm standing at 1A. I'm sitting in 1A. That seat. Derek's tone hardened like cement setting is reserved for our premium passengers. The words hung there. Premium passengers, as if Simone's presence somehow disqualified her from that category. A flight attendant appeared. Angela Torres, 36, Hispanic, 11 years with Skyward. Her hands gripped a clipboard too tight. Her mouth opened, closed, opened again. Nothing came out. From inside first class, a voice cut through. Can we please get moving? Some of us have connections. Karen Whitmore. Seat 1C. Blonde hair, salon fresh. Designer handbag. Already seated because they always let the Karens board early. Simone didn't turn around. Her eyes stayed locked on Derek. Captain, I'm giving you one opportunity. Check that boarding pass. Verify what you already know. That I belong in this cabin. Derek's jaw worked like he was chewing something bitter. I don't need to check anything. There's been a mistake. The only mistake, Simone's voice stayed level, but something underneath it sharpened, is the one you're making right now. And in about 20 minutes, you're going to wish you'd made a different choice. She pulled out her phone, scrolled to contacts, found a name, David Kim, executive assistant. Her thumb hovered over the call button. Derek watched with barely hidden irritation. Put the phone away and moved to the back. Now. Simone tapped the screen. The call connected. Around them, passengers pulled out their own phones. This was getting interesting. This was getting documented. And everything was about to change. David. Simone's voice carried just far enough. I need contingency file Omega 7. Derek's eyes narrowed. I'm giving you one final... Simone held up one finger. Not rudely, just with the authority of someone who'd spent 20 years commanding boardrooms. Wait. David Kim's voice crackled through the phone. Dr. Garrett Omega 7 is the Skyward acquisition file. Are you certain I'm standing at gate 27? Captain just told me first class is full. For me specifically. I'm certain. Behind her, someone whispered to their seatmate. Phones angled toward the confrontation like flowers turning toward sun. Derek stepped closer, voice rising. That's enough. You're causing a disruption. Security's coming. Let them come. Simone didn't blink. They'll need to see this too. She held up her boarding pass again, this time turning it so passengers behind her could see. Seat 1A, Platinum Elite, valid ticket. Anyone see a problem? Silence stretched. Then a voice from the back. I don't see any problem. Another. Just let her sit down. Karen Whitmore leaned into the aisle, fake concern dripping from her voice like honey from a broken hive. Maybe there's been a double booking. These things happen. If she just goes to economy, they can fix it after we're in the air. There's no double booking. Angela Torres spoke suddenly, her voice small but audible. Everyone turned. She held up her tablet hands, trembling. Seat 1A is assigned to Dr. Simone Garrett. The system shows no error. Derek's face flushed. Angela, I don't need... But Captain, her seat is... I said I don't need your input. Angela flinched like she'd been slapped, stepped back, but her hand moved to her phone fingers flying across the screen where Derek couldn't see. On Simone's phone, David. Goldman Sachs or J.P. Morgan both. Full hostile package. 1 hour. And David. Make it public. I want the filing to hit before midnight. Understood. Legal team standing by. She ended the call. Derek was breathing harder now, his command presence cracking like ice under weight. You can't just make calls in the boarding. I can make any call I want. I'm a paying passenger being denied service. What I can't do is board the seat I legally purchased because you've decided I don't fit your mental picture of who belongs in first class. That's not, I never... You didn't have to say it. You looked at me, saw my skin, saw my clothes, made an assumption. Everyone here knows what that assumption was. Karen stood smoothing her designer blouse. This is ridiculous. I fly first class every week. Never seen such a fuss over seating. Can't you just be reasonable? Simone turned slowly to face her. Reasonable. Like you were reasonable when you walked on and nobody questioned your pass. Nobody suggested you made a mistake. Nobody implied you might be in the wrong cabin. Karen's mouth opened. Closed. No response materialized. Exactly, Simone said. Derek pulled a radio from his belt. Ground security to gate 27. Non-compliant passenger refusing crew instructions. Simone stayed rooted to the spot. Didn't argue, didn't plead. Just stood there with the kind of presence that comes from knowing you're right and everyone watching knows it too. Angela took a step forward, voice stronger this time. Captain Haines, I need to report something. This isn't the first time you've... Not now, Angela. Yes, now. Last month you moved the Rodriguez family to economy because their kids were disruptive before they even sat down. 3 months ago you questioned Mr. Rashid about his visa on a domestic flight. 6 months ago. That's enough! Derek's voice boomed through the jet bridge like thunder in a canyon. You're out of line. No, sir. I'm finally in line with what's right. Angela showed Simone her phone screen. A text message sent 2 minutes earlier. Discrimination incident, gate 27. Captain Haines, need HR immediately. A. Torres. Simone nodded once. respect acknowledged without words. Footsteps echoed on the jet bridge. 2 security officers in dark uniforms approached expressions neutral hands near belts. Got a call about a disturbance. The first officer, middle-aged, tired eyes. Derek pointed at Simone like identifying a suspect in a lineup. This passenger is refusing crew instructions, causing a delay. The second officer, a woman with kind eyes that had seen too much, looked at Simone. "Ma'am, can you tell us what's happening? I'm trying to board my assigned seat. The captain won't let me." "Can I see your boarding pass?" Simone handed it over. The officer scanned it with a handheld device. It beeped green, a sound that should have ended this 5 minutes ago. "This is valid. Seat 1A, first class." She looked at Derek. "What's the problem?" Captain Derek's mouth worked, searching for words that wouldn't make him sound exactly like what he was. There was concern about the seat assignment. Possible system error. "The system shows no error," Angela repeated, holding up her tablet like evidence in court. The security officer handed Simone's pass back. "Ma'am, you're cleared to board." "Thank you." Simone took 1 step forward. Derek blocked her path. The officer's expression hardened. "Captain, step aside. I have final authority over who boards my aircraft." Based on what grounds, Derek said nothing. Couldn't say what he was thinking, not with 50 witnesses, not with multiple cameras recording. The silence stretched like a rope about to snap. Then from the crowd, a voice. "This is wrong. We all know what this is." Another. "Let her sit down." A third. "I'm posting this everywhere." And that's when phones started buzzing. All of them. At once. Because Tyler Brooks, 26 years old, Hispanic documentary filmmaker Row 23, had just uploaded video to Twitter. Black woman denied her first-class seat on Skyward Air. Captain won't check her pass. This is 2024. Watch. 3,000 views already. The number climbed as they watched. The algorithm had found its next viral moment. And Captain Derek Haines was the star. Tyler Brooks held his phone rock steady, every filmmaker instinct screaming, "Document everything." He'd started recording the moment Derek denied Simone's boarding. His mother's face flashed through his mind, the restaurant manager who'd called her too loud code for, "We don't serve Mexicans here." No cameras then. No proof. Just their word against his. Never again. His thumb moved to the tweet button. Hesitated. This could cost him. Could get him kicked off the flight. Could. He pressed it. Within seconds, retweets, comments, shares rippling outward like stones in water. "Captain." Tyler's voice cut through the murmur, clear as a bell. "You didn't ask for her boarding pass, didn't verify her identity. You just looked at her and decided. We all saw it." Derek turned, face darkening. "Sir, I suggest you mind your business before you get removed from this flight." "Remove me for what?" "For filming a public employee discriminating." "Please try. I've got 12,000 followers who'd love that content." A woman near Tyler raised her phone. "I'm filming too." Backup footage. Then another phone. Another. The jet bridge became a studio. Derek Haines, unwilling star of a show he never auditioned for. From seat 1C, Karen Whitmore stood again, patience evaporating like water on hot tarmac. "This is absurd. I have a conference in San Francisco. I'm a VP at Whitmore Consulting. You can't hold up an entire flight for this. She stopped herself. "Barely. For this." What Simone's question landed soft as snow, but cut like broken glass. "Please, finish your thought." Karen's mouth snapped shut like a trap. Judge Eleanor Walsh had been watching everything with the practiced observation of 32 years on the federal bench. 68 years old, white hair, cropped short, blue eyes that missed nothing. She'd presided over civil rights cases, employment discrimination suits, corporate malfeasance. She recognized what she was seeing. Eleanor stood movements deliberate as a chess player's and stepped into the aisle. "Captain Haines." A question. Derek turned to her. His expression shifted slightly. Older white woman, first class, clearly affluent. Someone he'd listened to. Yes, ma'am, I've flown first class for 40 years. Hundreds of flights. Not once, not a single time has crew questioned my boarding pass at the aircraft door. Her voice carried authority like judges carry gavels. Explain why only this passenger is being interrogated. This is a security. Security. The word came out sharp enough to draw blood. I watched you let me board without checking my pass. I watched you waver through. She pointed at Karen without a glance. I watched 3 other passengers walk directly to their seats. But this woman, the only black woman in first class, she gets interrogated. I'm following Proto. You're following bias, Captain. And I'm a retired federal judge. I know racial profiling when I see it. The jet bridge went dead silent. Not the comfortable silence of agreement. The uncomfortable silence of truth landing where it can't be ignored. Karen Whitmore's face went pale. She sat down fast, suddenly very interested in her phone. Derek's confidence crumbled visibly. Shoulders tensed. Hand went to his radio dropped. He was cornered and everyone knew it. Judge Walsh. Simone's voice still even. Thank you. Eleanor nodded. I'm documenting every word. And, Captain, when your lawyers come calling and they will, I'll be happy to provide testimony. Angela seized the moment like a drowning person grabbing a life preserver. She stepped forward, fear finally overtaken by something stronger. Captain Haines. Her voice trembled but held. I need to report something. For the record. With all these witnesses. Angela. I'm warning. You've warned me plenty of times to stay quiet. I'm done being quiet. She turned to face the passengers, the phones, the security officers. My name is Angela Torres, 11 years with Skyward, and I've watched Captain Haines engage in a pattern. You're terminated, Derek said flatly. Maybe, but they need to hear this first. She pulled up her phone, opened notes, began reading. March 15th. Captain Haines moved the Rodriguez family from first to economy, said their children were disruptive. The children were reading quietly. June 8th. Questioned a Muslim passenger about visa status. On a domestic flight. Miami to Atlanta. September 2nd. Denied a woman with a disability access to first class. Said she couldn't handle the seat requirements. She'd flown that route 50 times. And today, October 10th. He denied Dr. Simone Garrett her assigned seat because he looked at her and made an assumption. Angela's voice cracked, but she pushed through. I stayed silent every time. Bills to pay, son in college, needed this job. But silence isn't neutral. Silence protects the person with power, not the person being hurt. She looked at Simone. I'm sorry I didn't speak up sooner. Simone's expression softened. You're speaking now. That's what matters. Tyler's video hit 15,000 views. Comments scrolled too fast to read. This is why I don't fly. How many complaints has this pilot had? Someone ID her. She deserves better. I've experienced this exact thing. The security officer who'd checked Simone's pass turned to her partner. We need a supervisor. Her partner was already radioing. Derek pulled out his own radio. I'm calling the gate supervisor. This has gone far enough. Yes, Judge Eleanor's voice cut like a verdict. It has, but not in the way you think, a passenger from economy called out. Posted it to TikTok, 10,000 views already. Another, sent it to my local news. They want interviews. The viral wave built momentum. Digital evidence cascading across platforms, each share adding velocity to something soon unstoppable. Karen tried one more time, voice strained. Maybe everyone's being too sensitive. Mistakes happen. Can't we just... Sit down. Eleanor didn't raise her voice. Didn't need to. You've said enough. Karen sat. Derek looked around the jet bridge, 50 witnesses, multiple videos. A federal judge and employee testifying against him, and a woman who hadn't raised her voice once but somehow controlled the entire situation. "I'm calling my union rep." He pulled out his phone. "Go ahead," Simone said. "Call whoever you want. But while you're at it, call a lawyer too, because in about 18 minutes I'm going to own this airline." Tyler zoomed in, catching the exact moment Derek realized he wasn't dealing with just any passenger. "Who the hell are you?" Derek demanded. Simone smiled. Small, cold, sharp as ice at altitude. "You're about to find out." Simone stood in the jet bridge, mind sharp, despite chaos swirling around her. She'd learned this composure early. It wasn't natural. It was forged. Most people thought confidence came easy. They were wrong. The memory surfaced clear as yesterday. Simone, at 14, standing beside her mother in a Houston department store. First day of high school shopping. Excited about new clothes, new possibilities, new beginnings. The security guard followed them for 20 minutes, hovering 2 aisles over, watching when they touched merchandise, making no effort to hide his suspicion. Young Simone noticed first. "Mom, that man's following us." Grace Garrett glanced back once. Her jaw tightened. "I know, baby." "Why?" "Because he thinks we're here to steal." "But we're not. He doesn't know that. He sees 2 black women and makes assumptions." Simone felt anger rise hot in her chest. "That's not fair." "No, it's not. So here's what we do. We shop with our heads up. We're polite. We buy everything we came for. And we walk out with dignity. Shouldn't we complain? Report him?" Her mother smiled sadly. "We could. But baby, you'll learn soon enough the world doesn't always care when people like us complain. What matters is how we carry ourselves through it." They completed their shopping, paid cash. The security guard watched them leave, disappointed he hadn't caught them doing anything wrong. In the parking lot, Simone asked, "Does it ever stop? Being watched like that?" "No." Grace's honesty cut deeper than comfort would have. "But you learn to walk through it. And someday when you're powerful enough, you change it." The memory faded. Her mother was 73 now, retired in Florida, watching her daughter's success with fierce pride. If Grace could see this moment, she'd say, "Baby, you're about to walk through it again. Walk tall. MIT. First day of Advanced Materials Engineering." Simone arrived early, notebook ready, eager. Professor Davidson entered, scanned the room, predominantly white and Asian students, his eyes landing on Simone. "Excuse me, miss. This is upper-level engineering. Are you sure you're in the right room?" She showed him her schedule. He frowned. "This material is quite difficult. Have you considered starting with an introductory class I tested into this course, sir? Sometimes the placement tests are generous. Generous. As if her perfect score had been charity instead of earned. She stayed in that class, finished with the highest grade, published her first paper before graduation. Professor Davidson wrote her a glowing Stanford recommendation, conveniently forgetting he'd once suggested she wasn't qualified. Venture capital office, Palo Alto. Floor-to-ceiling windows. Expensive chairs. 5 white men in their 40s around a conference table. Simone presenting her carbon fiber composite prototype. "Very impressive, Ms. Garrett. Did you develop this yourself?" "Yes, with my team." "And who's the lead engineer?" "I am." One investor smiled condescendingly. "I meant the senior technical lead. The person actually running the engineering." "That's me. PhD in materials science from Stanford. Founder and chief engineer." "Right, but who handles the actual technical work?" They couldn't believe a young black woman was the brain behind the innovation. Assumed she was the face the diversity hire the assistant to the real genius hiding somewhere. She walked out. 2 years later, her company hit $200 million valuation. One of those investors called trying to get into a later funding round. She declined. These memories weren't painful anymore. They were armor. Each assumption, each doubt, each moment of proving herself had forged something unbreakable. Derek Haines was just the latest in a line of people who'd looked at her and seen only what they expected. The difference now was simple. Simone had spent 20 years building power. Real, undeniable, transformative power. And in this jet bridge, with 50 witnesses and cameras rolling, she was about to use it. Not for revenge. Revenge was small, personal, temporary. For change. Change was large, structural, permanent. Her phone buzzed. Text from David Kim. Goldman Sachs ready. Acquisition package prepared. Press release drafted. Awaiting approval to file. She typed back, "File it. Now." Another buzz. Her CFO. "Are you sure $2.3 billion? Response. Never been more sure. The memories of every time someone had told her she didn't belong crystallized into single clear purpose. She was doing this for the 14-year-old followed through a store. The 19-year-old questioned about her qualifications. The 27-year-old dismissed as decoration. And for every person who'd experienced this humiliation but lacked resources to fight back. Derek still argued with security, his voice rising, his desperation evident. Simone watched with the detachment of a scientist observing an experiment. She'd given him chances to back down, to check her past, to simply treat her with basic respect. He'd chosen this outcome. Now he'd live with it. The gate area transformed into something between standoff and circus. More passengers arrived, confused about delays, pulling out phones when they sensed drama unfolding. Security Officer Harris keyed his radio. "Supervisor to Gate 27, need management here." Derek seized on this. Finally, someone with authority to handle this properly. Judge Eleanor laughed, short, sharp, humorless. "Captain, I don't think the supervisor will side with you the way you're expecting. I'm a captain with 27 years. And you've just been caught discriminating on video watched by Eleanor checked Tyler's Twitter 43,000 people. In 15 minutes. Color drained from Derek's cheeks. Tyler still recording. 56,000 now. Accelerating. Karen Whitmore stood, grabbed her designer bag, tried to edge past Derek toward economy. "Where are you going?" Derek asked. "Away from this disaster. I don't want associated with any of this." "You're already associated," Tyler said helpfully. "You're in the video. I'm a VP at Whitmore Consulting. You can't hold up the flight for this." "That's you, right?" Red crept up Karen's neck. She sat back down hard. Simone hadn't moved from her position. Stood like a monument to patient's boarding pass still in hand. Dignity intact despite everything. Commotion at the jet bridge entrance announced Rachel Mendez, gate supervisor, 42, Hispanic, 16 years, with Skyward. She'd seen every passenger situation imaginable. But this crowd, phones, Judge Eleanor Walsh, whose civil rights case had made national news, a captain who looked like he wanted to sink through the floor. Not standard. Someone want to explain Rachel's voice carried authority, earned through years of handling chaos. 3 people started talking at once. Rachel held up her hand. One at a time. Captain Derek straightened, trying to reclaim command presence. "Passenger has been disruptive, non-compliant, refused crew instructions." "That's a lie." Angela interrupted. "I'm sorry, Rachel, but it's a lie." Rachel turned. "Angela, Dr. Garrett." Angela gestured to Simone, has been nothing but polite. Captain Haines denied her seat without checking her pass. Made an assumption based on appearance. "May I see the boarding pass?" Rachel asked. Simone handed it over wordlessly. Rachel scanned it. Her device beeped green. She checked her tablet, reviewing the manifest. Seat 1A, Dr. Simone Garrett, Platinum Elite. No payment issues, no flags, no double booking. She looked up. "Captain, Why wasn't this passenger allowed to board? Derek's mouth opened, closed, opened again. There was concern about what security protocols? Which protocols specifically? General security? Captain Haines. Rachel's voice dropped 10 degrees. I need a specific answer. What security concern did this passenger present? Silence. Rachel turned to Eleanor. Your Honor, I recognize you. Can you tell me what you observed? Eleanor stood. I watched Captain Haines allow 5 passengers to board first class without checking passes. The moment Dr. Garrett approached, he denied her access without verification. When she asked him to check, he refused. When she remained composed and requested a supervisor, he threatened removal. I've been a federal judge for 32 years. This is textbook discrimination. Rachel closed her eyes briefly, opened them, made a decision. Captain Haines, you're relieved for this flight. Report to my office after we resolve this. You can't. I absolutely can. And I am. Rachel turned to Simone. Dr. Garrett, I sincerely apologize. Your seat is yours. Please board. Thank you. Derek's face went from white to red. This is unacceptable. I'm calling my union. Call whoever you want. Do it away from my gate. As Derek pulled out his phone already dialing, Karen made her second catastrophic mistake. She stood again, patience finally snapping like a rubber band stretched too far. Excuse me, but this is ridiculous. Her voice went shrill, corporate polish cracking. I've been sitting here 25 minutes. I have a conference tomorrow morning, a very important conference, and we're being held hostage because one person couldn't accept a simple mistake and move. Simone turned slowly to face her. A simple mistake. Yes. These things happen. You walked onto this plane. No one checked your pass. No one questioned your right to first class. How is that different from my situation? That's not. I've been a loyal customer. So have I. Platinum Elite for 8 years. Well, I'm a VP at... I don't care what your title is. Simone's voice stayed level but gained an edge. Your position doesn't give you the right to tell me where I sit. Your impatience doesn't obligate me to accept discrimination. And your privilege doesn't erase my humanity. Karen's mouth worked trying to formulate a response that wouldn't reveal exactly what she was thinking. Judge Eleanor leaned forward. Ms. Whitmore, I strongly suggest stopping. Everything you say right now is being recorded, and will likely demonstrate your enabling of racial profiling. I never said anything about race. You didn't have to. Your silence while Captain Haines discriminated spoke volumes. Your demand that Dr. Garrett just move said everything, and your expectation that your comfort matters more than her dignity tells us exactly who you are. Karen sat, face crimson, finally realizing the hole she'd dug. Tyler's video hit 92,000 views. Comments brutal. That Karen needs to be fired. Someone ID her company. The privilege is astounding. While Rachel dealt with Derek's increasingly desperate union rep call, Simone made her second call. David's status update. Her executive assistant. Goldman Sachs has the full package ready. J.P. Morgan standing by. Acquisition proposal drafted. Legal reviewed everything. Ready to file on your word. Price point, $2.3 billion for 60% stake. Aggressive, but analysis shows Skyward's vulnerable. Stock already down 4% from last quarter's bad press. This incident will drop it further. Board resistance expected Dr. Garrett once this video hits major news, and it will. Their board will have no choice. Accept your terms, or watch the company collapse. You're not just buying an airline. You're rescuing them from their own culture. Several passengers nearby stopped pretending not to listen. Openly eavesdropping now, eyes wide. File it, Simone said. Full hostile if they refuse. Paperwork hits their board's inbox in 30 minutes. Press release. Draft it. Hold until I call. Give them a chance to do the right thing first. Understood. One thing, are you sure massive acquisition? You'll be personally... David, I've never been more sure of anything. Do it. She hung up. The woman behind Simone whispered to her husband. Did she just say 2.3 billion? Tyler zoomed in on Simone's face. Expression unchanged. In control. His video. 150,000 views. Rachel's phone buzzed. She glanced, froze, looked at Simone with new eyes. Text from her district manager. Rachel. Please tell me you're not dealing with Dr. Simone Garrett, CEO of Garrett Advanced Materials. Please. Rachel's hands went cold. She pulled up Google, typed fast, stomach dropping. Dr. Simone Garrett, 42, Stanford Ph.D., founded Garrett Advanced Materials valued at $5.8 billion. Her carbon fiber composites in commercial aircraft, military jets, spacecraft, satellites. Client list. Boeing, Lockheed Martin, SpaceX, NASA. Supplier for 60% of Skyward's fleet. Oh no, Rachel whispered. Angela, standing nearby, saw Rachel's expression. What's wrong? Rachel showed her the screen. Angela's eyes went wide. She looked at Simone, then back at Rachel. Did Captain Haines just discriminate against our biggest supplier? Yes. Yes, he did. They both turned to Derek, still on the phone, with his union rep arguing about wrongful termination procedures. He had no idea his career had just ended. Rachel dialed her supervisor. Tom, we have a situation. Very, very serious. 15 miles away in Manhattan, Jonathan Pierce was having anniversary dinner with his wife. 28 years married. Her favorite Italian place. Trying to forget work for one evening. His phone rang. Caller ID, Tom Davidson, VP of Operations. I should take this, Jonathan said apologetically. His wife sighed. Of course you should. Jonathan stepped outside. Tom, this better be important. Anniversary. Sir, you need to get to JFK immediately. Terminal 5, Gate 27. Why one of our captains just discriminated against Dr. Simone Garrett. On video. Jonathan felt the world tilt sideways. Tell me you're joking. I'm not. Already viral, 500,000 views. And sir, she just filed a hostile takeover bid. She's coming for the company. Jonathan closed his eyes. Saw his career, his legacy. Everything he'd built over 2 decades circling the drain. I'm on my way. He went back inside, kissed his wife, said the words he'd said 1,000 times. I'm sorry, honey. Emergency. She didn't look surprised. She never did anymore. Jonathan's Tesla cut through Manhattan traffic with the aggression of pure panic. Phone on speaker, Tom walking him through disaster. How bad, Jonathan asked, though he already knew answers wouldn't be good. Catastrophic. Video at 700,000 views. CNN picked it up. So did the Times. Stock dropped 8% in after hours. Both hashtags trending nationally. And Dr. Garrett still at the gate. Hasn't boarded. Flight delayed. And Jonathan, she's not just angry. She's strategic. Called Goldman Sachs right there in the jet bridge. Filed takeover paperwork before we knew what hit us. Jonathan's hands tightened on the wheel. Simone Garrett. Materials scientist. Woman whose composites are in most of our planes. 60% of our fleet. Christ. How did Derek not know who she was? He never asked. Just looked at her and assumed she didn't belong. Jonathan merged onto the highway toward JFK, mind racing through scenarios. Simone Garrett wasn't some random passenger. She was a titan, woman who'd built a multi-billion empire from scratch, who negotiated with heads of state who held patents that reshaped industries. and Derek Haines told her there was no room. Tom, prepare the board for emergency call. Everyone on video in 1 hour. Already done, sir? Get attorneys on standby. If Dr. Garrett's serious about this takeover, she's serious. Goldman Sachs doesn't file as a bluff. Jonathan's phone beeped. Another call. His PR director. Tom, hold on. He switched. Talk to me. Sir, we need a statement, his PR director said, stress tightening her voice. Not yet. I need to assess first. Media is calling nonstop. No statement until I talk to Dr. Garrett. That's final. He ended the call and pressed harder on accelerator. Jonathan burst into Terminal 5 at 7:42 p.m. Expensive suit rumpled. Mind calculating every angle. He'd built Skyward from regional carrier to national competitor. 15 years of growth partnerships, careful brand management. One pilot had potentially destroyed it all in 20 minutes. He reached Gate 27 and stopped. At least 80 people crowded the area. Some passengers, others airport staff. Many held phones, still recording. Energy Electric tense like everyone waiting for the next act of a play nobody rehearsed. In the center stood Dr. Simone Garrett. Composed, poised, unmoved by chaos around her. She was smaller than photos suggested, maybe 5'6", but carried herself with the kind of presence that comes from absolute certainty. Her cashmere sweater, elegant but understated. No flashy jewelry, no designer logos, nothing to announce wealth or status. That's what Derek saw. That's what he misjudged so catastrophically. Jonathan pushed through the crowd. Dr. Garrett. She turned. Her eyes met his. Mr. Pierce. I was wondering when you'd arrive. I came as soon as I heard. You're here for damage control. I understand. It's what I do. Her voice was measured professional, but underneath it, steel. Jonathan glanced around at phones still recording. Is there somewhere we can talk privately? No. Whatever you have to say here. In front of witnesses. That way there's no confusion later about what was promised, denied, or ignored. Judge Eleanor Walsh, seated nearby, nodded approvingly. Jonathan took a breath. Dr. Garrett, I owe you an apology. What happened tonight was unacceptable. Captain Haines had no right. Captain Haines, Simone interrupted. Isn't the problem. He's a symptom. The problem is culture that protected him. The problem is pattern. I'm not sure what you... Angela Torres stepped forward, phone with incident list in hand. I can explain. Captain Haines has 12 complaints filed against him over 6 years. Discrimination, rudeness, profiling. None were acted on. All resolved with vouchers and quiet apologies. Jonathan felt ground shift beneath his feet. 12. 12 documented. How many more weren't reported because passengers didn't think anyone would listen? No answer for that. Simone spoke again. Mr. Pierce, how many discrimination complaints has Skyward received in the past 5 years? Not just from Captain Haines, all employees. Jonathan hesitated. You don't know, do you? She pressed. You don't track it. Don't aggregate data. You treat each incident as isolated resolve, quietly move on. That way you never have to see pattern. She was right. He knew she was right. Dr. Garrett, I can assure you we take all complaints seriously. Then show me the data. Right now. On your phone. Pull up discrimination complaints. Skyward received this year. Jonathan pulled out his phone, opened email, searched through reports. His hands shook slightly. He couldn't find it. They didn't track it that way. I'll need to get that from HR. You don't have it. Flat statement, not question. You're CEO of a 15,000 employee company and can't tell me how many passengers complained about discrimination. That's not oversight. That's negligence. Tyler's camera caught every word. Video, 1.2 million views. Jonathan knew he was losing. Every word recorded, dissected, shared. He needed different tactics. Dr. Garrett, I understand you're upset. I'm not upset, Mr. Pierce. Upset is emotional response to something unexpected. What I am is unsurprised. I've experienced this treatment my entire life. Only difference today is I have resources to respond. She showed him her phone screen recent calls. At 6:47 p.m., I called my executive assistant and ordered hostile takeover preparation. At 7:15 p.m., Goldman Sachs filed preliminary paperwork. By 8:00 p.m., it'll be public knowledge. By tomorrow morning, your board chooses. Accept my terms or watch stock price collapse. Jonathan's throat went dry. Dr. Garrett, surely we can resolve without such drastic... You think this is drastic? Her voice rose slightly for the first time, a crack in composure. You think spending $2.3 billion to buy a company is drastic. You know what's actually drastic. Being told you don't belong in space you paid for because of your skin. Being humiliated in front of 50 strangers. Being treated like a criminal for the crime of existing while black. She stepped closer, eyes burning. I could have filed a complaint. Could have written a letter. Could have posted on social media and moved on. And you know what would have happened? Nothing. Captain Haines would have gotten a warning. Your HR would have sent me a voucher. And next month he'd do it to someone else. Someone without my resources. Someone who has to just take it and smile and say thank you when you finally let them sit in the seat they paid for. That's not... Yes, it is. That's exactly how it works. I've watched it work that way my entire career. But not today. Today it works differently. Judge Eleanor stood addressing crowd now. Mr. Pierce, I've presided over dozens of employment discrimination cases. Corporate defendants always say the same things. We take complaints seriously. This is isolated. We have policies. Then discovery reveals complaints, buried policies, ignored culture protecting powerful over vulnerable. She gestured to phones still recording. What's different tonight? This isn't behind closed doors. This isn't being resolved with NDA and settlement check. This is public. And that's the only reason you're here, not because you care what happened to Dr. Garrett, but because the world is watching. Crowd erupted in applause. Jonathan stood in the middle of it, realizing he'd already lost. Question now wasn't whether he'd lose his company. Question was how much control he'd retain afterward. Rachel approached, face pale. Sir, another problem. Derek called his union rep. Unions threatening to defend him publicly. Planning press conference. Tell them if they defend Derek, we release all 12 complaints. With details. Sir. I don't care about union politics right now, Rachel. This is war. Tell them stand down or get buried in rubble. Rachel nodded and stepped away. Jonathan turned back to Simone. Dr. Garrett, please. Let's discuss this reasonably. What do you want? Simone smiled. Not warm, not kind. I want what I've always wanted, Mr. Pierce. My seat in first class. The one I paid for. The one I'm entitled to. The one Captain Haines tried to deny me. Pause. And then I want to burn down every structure in your company that made tonight possible. Every policy, every practice, every assumption that allowed 12 complaints to be ignored. I want accountability. I want transformation. I want to ensure this never happens to anyone else. And if I agree, then you keep your job. You work for me now, but you work for me. Jonathan looked around. Cameras, witnesses, his career hanging by thread. He made his choice. Where do we start? Jonathan straightened his shoulders, took a breath, made a decision that would either save his company or cement its downfall. He turned to face the crowd, passengers, staff, security dozens recording. Ladies and gentlemen, I need your attention. Murmuring died. Phones angled toward him. I'm Jonathan Pierce, CEO of Skyward Airlines. I need to address what happened tonight. Karen Whitmore, still in 1C, sank lower in her seat. Jonathan continued. First, an apology. Not corporate PR speak. A genuine apology to Dr. Simone Garrett for the treatment she received tonight. He turned to Simone. What Captain Haines did was wrong. It was discrimination. And it revealed a failure in our culture that I take full responsibility for. Simone said nothing, just watched with penetrating eyes. But I think Jonathan's voice caught. I think everyone deserves to understand exactly who was denied boarding tonight. Not because credentials should be required to receive basic respect, but because it illustrates how catastrophically wrong Captain Haines was. He pulled out his phone, opened browser, typed, held up screen to crowd. This is Dr. Simone Garrett, 42 years old, born Houston, Texas, full scholarship MIT, PhD materials science from Stanford, founder and CEO of Garrett Advanced Materials, currently valued at $5.8 billion. Gasps rippled through crowd. Dr. Garrett holds 63 patents. Her carbon fiber composites are in commercial aircraft, military jets, satellites, spacecraft. Her clients include Boeing, Lockheed, Martin, SpaceX, NASA. He paused. Last week, Dr. Garrett was in Dubai closing a 10-year, $12 billion contract that will make her materials the new standard in satellite and deep space construction. Tyler's hands shook as he filmed. This was bigger than he'd imagined. Jonathan continued. Skyward uses Dr. Garrett's composites in 60% of our fleet. $200 million annual partnership. She's not just a passenger. She's one of our most important suppliers. He turned to Derek, who stood near jet bridge entrance, phone pressed to ear, suddenly very pale. Captain Haines looked at Dr. Garrett, woman who literally helped build the plane he was about to fly, and decided she didn't belong in first class, didn't check credentials, didn't verify pass. Just saw a black woman in casual clothing and made an assumption. Crowd dead silent. But here's what makes this truly unconscionable, Jonathan said. This wasn't Captain Haines's first incident. We have 12 documented complaints over 6 years. 12 times passengers reported discrimination, rudeness, profiling, and our company, my company, resolved each quietly. Vouchers. Apologies. No meaningful consequences. Angela Torres cried now, relief and vindication washing over her. Tonight I'm making this public because it needs to be. Dr. Garrett deserves an apology witnessed by everyone who saw her humiliated. And every passenger deserves to know we're fixing this. He turned back to Simone. Dr. Garrett, I can't undo tonight, but I can ensure it never happens again. And I'm prepared to accept whatever terms you set. Simone stood still for a long moment, let Jonathan's words settle, then stepped forward, not aggressive, unmistakably in command. Thank you, Mr. Pierce, for that introduction. Her voice carried, clear, resonant. But I need to clarify something. I don't need you to list my credentials. My boarding pass was enough. My payment was enough. She looked at Derek, who flinched. My humanity should have been enough. Someone shifted in crowd. Phone angled toward her. Captain Haines didn't need to know I have 3 degrees. Didn't need to know I run a billion-dollar company. He just needed to treat me the way he'd treat any passenger with valid ticket with basic respect. She turned to address crowd fully. But he looked at me and saw something else. Saw a black woman in comfortable clothes, and his first thought was, she doesn't belong. Her voice stayed steady, but emotion threaded through. I've experienced this my entire life. Different forms, same route. She paused. At 19, professor assumed I was in wrong classroom. At 27, investors assumed I was the assistant, not CEO. At 35, store clerk followed me around like I was there to steal instead of spend. Judge Eleanor nodded. Every time I had to prove I belonged, show ID, provide credentials, demonstrate worth, as if my presence wasn't enough evidence. She paused again. And you know what happens when you finally prove it? When you show degrees, bank account position, they apologize, call it a misunderstanding, say, oh, if we'd known. Simone's eyes hardened. That's the problem. You shouldn't have to be a CEO to be treated with dignity, Teenager buying candy shouldn't have to prove she's not stealing. Family boarding plane shouldn't have to prove they can afford seats. Woman in first class shouldn't have to produce her PhD before captain treats her like a human being. Crowd riveted. This wasn't about protocol, about prejudice. Her voice dropped. Captain Haines made an assumption based on race. And the only reason we're discussing it publicly right now is because I had resources to fight back. She looked directly at phone's recording. But what about people who don't? Who experience this and have no recourse? Who file complaints that get buried? Who accept vouchers in exchange for silence? Who just take it because fighting means losing time? Money jobs. Several people nodded. Simone turned back to Derek. Captain Haines, you saw me as problem to remove instead of person to respect. She spoke quietly now. And I genuinely hope that in weeks and months ahead, you reflect on why that was your first instinct, why you looked at my face. My clothes decided I must have stolen a ticket or lied or cheated my way into seat I couldn't possibly afford. Derek opened his mouth. Nothing came out. I don't want your apology. Even quieter. Apologies are easy. Cost nothing. What I want is for you to understand the harm you caused. Not just to me, but to every person who looks like me and now knows that even with credentials, even with money, even with everything society says you need to be respected, it still might not be enough. She turned to Jonathan. Mr. Pierce, you asked what I want. Here's what I want. I want every person in your company, pilots to executives, to understand that discrimination has consequences. Real, immediate, costly consequences. Not vouchers, not buried complaints. Consequences. She pulled out phone, showed him document. Goldman Sachs filed paperwork 30 minutes ago. Hostile takeover, $2.3 billion for 60% controlling stake. Your board has 48 hours to accept my terms or I proceed and you lose your position. Crowd gasped. More intense filming. But if you accept we do this differently, you keep job. Employees keep theirs. Together we transform this company into model for how airlines should treat all passengers, not just ones who fit narrow definition of success. Jonathan swallowed hard. What are your terms? Simone's terms came out clear specific. Full access to every discrimination complaint from past decade. Independent review board with community oversight. Mandatory training for all employees. Real training with real consequences. Zero tolerance policy, first offense termination. Body cameras on first-class crew for 1 year. Pause. And $500 million for foundation. Garrett Aviation Initiative. Scholarships, training recruitment at historically black colleges. We're building pipeline of diverse talent because only way to fix broken culture is change. Who gets to shape it? Gate area erupted. Some applauded. Others texted friends, posted updates, spread news. Few stood mouths open, unable to process. Tyler's video. 2.1 million views. Comments scrolling too fast. She bought the whole airline. Most epic karma ever. Captain about to lose everything. I'm crying. This is justice. Karen stood abruptly. Grabbed bag. Tried slipping past crowd toward exit. Ms. Whitmore, Eleanor called. Where are you going? Karen froze. I think you should stay. You're part of this story. You demanded Dr. Garrett accept the mistake and move. You enabled discrimination, and I suspect your employer will want to know why their VP of marketing was caught on camera doing that. Karen's face went white. I wasn't. Yes, you were. You saw discrimination happening and pressured victim to comply. That's not neutral. That's complicity. Karen sank back, phone out, hands shaking. Already getting messages. Video had tagged Whitmore Consulting. Twitter mentions probably a nightmare. Derek stood near wall phone, limp in hand. Union rep just told him they couldn't defend this. Not publicly. Not with video evidence and 12 prior complaints. He was done. Angela surrounded by other flight attendants, some hugging her, others thanking her for speaking up. Culture of silence cracking. Rachel approached Jonathan's tablet showing incoming messages. Sir Board requesting emergency video conference. They've seen videos. Want to talk immediately. Jonathan nodded. Tell them 10 minutes. And Rachel start termination paperwork for Captain Haines. Effective immediately. Yes, sir. He turned to Simone. Dr. Garrett, your terms are severe. They're appropriate. You built culture where 12 complaints were ignored. That culture needs dismantling, not reforming. My board may not. Your board will see stock price tomorrow morning and agree quickly. Matter of fact, I'm not offering choice. I'm offering chance to be part of solution instead of being remembered as part of problem. Jonathan looked around. Cameras, witnesses, career hanging by thread. You're right. About all of it. Simone studied him, measuring sincerity. Then we have agreement? Yes. But I want one thing in return. What I want to be part of transformation. Not just figurehead. I want to learn. Want to do better. Simone considered. Nodded once. Fine. But understand if you slip back, if you protect wrong people again, if you choose comfort over justice. I remove you. No warnings, no second chances. One opportunity to prove you mean what you're saying. I understand. She extended hand. Jonathan shook it. Crowd applauded again, this time with hope mixed with justice. Tyler filmed the handshake. Video 2.8 million views. This wasn't just viral moment anymore, it was movement. Jonathan pulled Derek aside. Just outside Jet Bridge entrance. Technically private, but dozens close enough to hear. Captain Haines, you're terminated. Effective immediately. Derek's face went from pale to crimson. You can't. I have a contract. Union protection. Your contract has conduct clause. You discriminated on video watched by millions. You've had 12 prior complaints. Your union won't fight this. I demand. You don't get to demand anything. Jonathan's voice flat as horizon. You're done. Security will escort you out. Your locker belongings will be mailed. Final check includes accrued PTO only. No severance. This is wrongful termination. Then Sue, please, give us opportunity to put every one of those 12 complaints on public record during discovery. Let jury hear from every passenger you humiliated. I'd love to see how that goes. Derek's mouth opened and closed like fish gasping. But that's not all. I'm personally reporting this to FAA. I can't revoke your license, but I can make sure every airline knows exactly why you're not flying for us. You'll be unemployable. You're destroying my career. You destroyed your own career the moment you looked at Dr. Garrett and decided she didn't belong. I'm just making consequences public. Angela, standing nearby, felt tears streaming. She'd stayed silent through so many incidents. Now, finally, pattern was acknowledged. Derek turned to her. Angela, you did this. Your list? No. Her voice stronger now. You did this. Every complaint, every passenger you disrespected, every time you let assumptions override professionalism. I finally stopped protecting you from your own choices. Derek pulled out phone already dialing lawyer. Security approached. Captain Haines, we need to escort you out. He left without another word. Uniform rumpled. Reputation destroyed. Phone pressed to ear, trying to salvage something from wreckage. 50 people watched him go. No one looked sorry. While Derek was escorted out, Karen's phone wouldn't stop buzzing. She made mistake of looking. CEO text. Karen, we need to talk. Immediately. PR director. Your comments all over Twitter. Whitmore Consulting trending. Not good. Assistant. Your 2 p.m. meeting tomorrow just canceled. So did 4 p.m. So did everything this week. She scrolled through Twitter with trembling fingers. Someone had identified her company. Someone else found her LinkedIn. A thread going viral. Meet Karen Whitmore, VP of Marketing at Whitmore Consulting, who thinks black passengers should just move when they experience discrimination. Her company's official account posted. We're aware of the video circulating. We're investigating and will make a statement shortly. Corporate speak for, you're fired. Judge Eleanor approached. Ms. Whitmore, a word. Karen looked up, eyes red. I didn't mean I wasn't trying to. You were trying to pressure a victim to comply rather than supporting her right to fair treatment. That's called enabling. I could sue you for defamation. Please do. I'm a federal judge. My statements are protected. And I'd be delighted to testify under oath about exactly what I observed. Karen stood abruptly. I need to make a call. She pushed through crowd toward bathroom, already crying. Tyler filmed her exit, narrating quietly. And that's what privilege looks like when it finally faces consequences. Jonathan returned from dealing with Derek and looked for Angela. Found her surrounded by crew members, some hugging her, others asking about the complaints she'd documented. Angela Torres. She turned nervous again. Yes, sir. Walk with me. They stepped away from the crowd. Angela's heart hammered. Was she getting fired too? For insubordination? For speaking up? Jonathan turned to face her. You texted HR during the incident. Yes, sir. I know I probably should have waited. You should have done it years ago. He paused. How long have you known about Captain Haynes's behavior? Angela swallowed. 6 years, since I transferred to this route. And you stayed silent. I was scared. My son's in college. Medical bills for my mother. Couldn't afford to lose this job. Jonathan nodded slowly. I understand. The power dynamic made it impossible to speak up safely. That's on me. On this company's culture. He pulled out his phone, opened notes. Angela, as of right now, you're promoted to senior flight attendant. Effective Monday, you'll be Director of Passenger Experience, a position I'm creating specifically for you. $95,000 salary, full benefits, reporting directly to me. Angela's legs went weak. What? You documented 12 complaints. You spoke up when it mattered. You risked your job to do what's right. Those are people I want in leadership. People who'll tell me the truth even when it's uncomfortable. But I don't have management experience. You have something more valuable. You have integrity, and you know exactly what's broken because you've lived it. Help me fix it. Angela started crying, relief, gratitude, disbelief washing over her. Thank you. Thank you so much. Don't thank me. Thank yourself for having courage to speak up. And Angela. Part of your new job will be reviewing every complaint we've received in the past decade. Every one. I want to know how many Dereks we've protected. How many passengers we've failed. Yes, sir. Absolutely. They shook hands. Angela walked back to her colleagues, a different person, no longer silent witness, now architect of change. Tyler was still filming when Simone approached him. You're the one who started recording, she said. Yes, ma'am. Tyler Brooks, documentary filmmaker. Why did you start filming? Tyler considered his answer. My mother was denied service at a restaurant when I was 10. Manager said she was too loud. Really, he just didn't want Mexicans in his place. We had no proof. No one believed us. I swore that day I'd document things like this, so there'd be evidence. Simone nodded. Your video has 3 million views now, 3.2 million, and climbing. It matters, Tyler, what you documented tonight. Not just about me, about creating a record. Evidence that can't be denied or spun or buried. That's exactly why I do it. Simone pulled out a business card. I'm starting a foundation. Aviation Diversity Initiatives. Part of it will be documenting stories like tonight, not just dramatic ones, but everyday discrimination people experience and can't prove. Would you be interested in leading that effort? Tyler's hands shook as he took the card. You're offering me a job, I'm offering you a platform. to do exactly what you did tonight, but with resources and reach. Document truth. Let people see what's really happening. Force change through exposure. Yes. Absolutely yes. Good. Email me tomorrow. We'll discuss details. As Simone walked away, Tyler looked at his phone. Video 3.7 million views. Comments, a mix of outrage, celebration, thousands sharing their own stories. He'd started filming to document injustice. He'd ended up documenting a revolution. By 8:15 p.m., the story exploded beyond Twitter. Major news networks picked it up. CNN, CEO buys airline after discrimination at gate. MSNBC, pilot denies black woman her seat, loses job and his airline. Fox News, business leader responds to alleged discrimination with $2.3 billion hostile takeover. The videos weren't just Tyler's anymore. Dozens of angles circulated. Teenage girl in 5B had live-streamed on TikTok, 1.8 million views. Someone's Instagram story went viral, 2.1 million views. Every platform flooded with the hashtags. Celebrities started weighing in. Oscar-winning director. Dr. Garrett didn't just take her seat. She bought the whole plane. That's how you respond to discrimination. Pop superstar. I've experienced this. Not on a plane, but in so many spaces. Watching Dr. Garrett stand her ground is everything. Political commentator. This isn't about politics. It's about human decency. If you can't treat passengers with respect, you shouldn't be flying planes. Even polarizing figures found common ground. Conservative writer. I'm as anti-woke as they come, but watching that captain deny a woman her seat without checking her pass, that's wrong. Period. Progressive activist. Dr. Garrett just showed us what real power looks like. Not complaining, not pleading, just consequences. The story transcended usual political divides because everyone understood the core truth. She'd paid for a seat, been denied it unfairly, and made them regret it. David Kim Simone's executive assistant was in her Manhattan office coordinating response. His phone showed 247 unread emails, 93 missed calls, 1,500 plus Twitter mentions. Media requests from every major outlet, investment firms asking about the takeover, aerospace companies trying to understand if this affected contracts. He sent Simone a text. Media insane. How do you want to handle Simone? Press conference tomorrow, 10 a.m. Corporate headquarters. Invite everyone. No filter. David smiled. She wasn't running from this. She was leaning into it. While the viral storm raged, Jonathan sat in an empty office laptop, opened a video conference with 8 board members. Jonathan, what the hell is happening? Chairman Robert Hughes, 67, had been with Skyward since founding. Stock down 18%, trending on every platform. And you're making deals with the woman trying to take over Bob she already took over. We just don't know it yet. Explain. Jonathan pulled up financials. Dr. Garrett can afford $2.3 billion. Goldman Sachs confirmed financing. 3 major shareholders already signaled support. If we fight, we lose. Badly. So we surrender. We adapt. She's offering partnership. 60% stake for her 40 for existing shareholders. She keeps me as operational CEO. We implement her reforms. In exchange, she invests $300 million in fleet upgrades using her composites, which we desperately need. CFO Linda Rodriguez. The reforms sound expensive. They are. $500 million for foundation. Another $200 million for training oversight policy implementation. But Linda run numbers on what happens if this fight drags out. Legal fees, stock collapse, lost contracts, federal investigations. Linda's fingers flew. She pulled up projections, face paling. If this goes hostile, and she wins anyway, we lose more than accepting now. Exactly. Plus, her reforms might actually make us better. Customer satisfaction dropping 3 years. Employee retention terrible. Maybe treating people with dignity is also good business. Board members looked at each other through video squares. Silent calculations in 8 locations. Fine, Bob finally said. Draw up papers. But Jonathan, if this backfires, it won't. Trust me. Call ended. Jonathan sat alone, realizing he was no longer in control of the company he'd built. He was now a manager reporting to someone who'd bought her way in because his pilot couldn't see past skin color. But strangely, he felt relieved. For the first time in years, someone was forcing him to confront problems he'd been too comfortable to solve. Jonathan found Simone in the executive lounge reviewing documents on her tablet. She'd changed into a sharp business suit, power dressing for battle ahead. Dr. Garrett, do you have time? She looked up. For you, Mr. Pierce? Exactly 10 minutes. After that, I have calls with Goldman Sachs and legal. He sat across from her. I spoke with my board. They're resistant. I expected that. But I convinced them to hear you out. If you're willing to negotiate. I'm not negotiating. I'm implementing. There's a difference. He leaned forward. Dr. Garrett Skyward employs 15,000 people. Good people. Families, mortgages, kids in college. If you dismantle this company to make a point, I'm not dismantling anything. I'm restructuring. And those 15,000 employees keep their jobs assuming they're not currently discriminating. But the cost of your reforms is less than the cost of doing nothing. Simone set down her tablet. Let me show you something. She pulled up a spreadsheet. This is your attrition data for past 5 years. You lose 34% of minority employees within 2 years. Industry average is 22%. Know what that means? We have a retention problem. You have a culture problem. And that culture problem costs you approximately $47 million annually in recruitment training lost productivity. She pulled up another chart. This is customer satisfaction. Overall scores declining 8% over 3 years. But break it down by demographic, minority passengers rate you 23% lower than white passengers. That's not random. That's pattern. Jonathan stared at numbers. Your company is bleeding money because you tolerate bias. My reforms aren't charity. They're good business. If you can't see that, you shouldn't be running an airline. He had no response. Simone opened a document-slid tablet across. Here are my terms. Non-negotiable. He read through them, discomfort growing with each item. Ownership structure. Simone Garrett. 60% controlling stake for $2.3 billion. Existing shareholders 40%. Jonathan Pierce remains operational CEO, reports to Simone. Simone takes chairman of board position. Financial commitments. $500 million for Garrett Aviation Initiative over 5 years. $200 million for company-wide training and policy reform. $100 million for independent oversight and accountability. Personnel changes. Derek Haines terminated immediately. Full audit of all discrimination complaints past 10 years. Any employee with 3 or more substantiated complaints terminated. Mandatory retraining for all employees within 90 days. Employees refusing retraining terminated. Accountability measures. Independent review board with community representation. Body cameras for first-class crew 12 months pilot program. Real-time reporting for discrimination complaints. Quarterly public reports on complaint data and resolution. Zero tolerance first substantiated offense equals termination. Cultural transformation. Angela Torres. Director of Passenger Experience VP level. New Chief Diversity Officer C-suite level. Partnership with 5 historically black colleges for recruitment. Mandatory implicit bias training external experts. Anonymous employee surveys, quarterly public results. Victim support. Any passenger filing discrimination complaint receives immediate investigation. If substantiated full ticket refund, $5,000 compensation, lifetime platinum status, written apology from CEO. No NDAs, ever. Victims can speak publicly. Executive accountability. Jonathan's compensation tied to diversity metrics. If minority retention doesn't reach industry average in 2 years, 40% pay cut. If customer satisfaction for minority passengers doesn't rise 15%, half bonus lost. Jonathan attends quarterly community forums to hear from affected passengers. Legal commitments. Skyward publicly releases all settled discrimination cases past decade, victims anonymized. Company waives arbitration clauses for discrimination claims. Passengers can sue in court. Company commits to never using NDAs to silence victims. Jonathan finished reading, face pale. This is severe. It's appropriate. You built a structure that protected predators and punished victims. That structure needs complete dismantling, not edge reform. My board will never accept Demand 6. Paying every complaint $5,000 plus lifetime platinum could cost millions. Good. Make discrimination expensive. Right now it costs nothing. Voucher and quiet apology. Not a deterrent, but knowing every substantiated complaint costs $5,000 plus benefits. That's incentive to hire and train people who won't discriminate. And Demand 7 tying my pay to diversity metrics unprecedented. It's alignment. If you genuinely believe diversity makes the company better, you should be happy tying compensation to it. If you're afraid of that accountability, that tells me you don't actually believe it will work. Jonathan set down tablet. Dr. Garrett, please, can we discuss modifications? No, these terms are final. Accept them by midnight tomorrow or I proceed hostile and you lose your position. She stood. Wait, Jonathan said. Honest question. Go ahead. Why keep me? You could buy the company, install your own CEO, run it however you want. Why give me a chance? Simone paused. Because firing you doesn't teach you anything. It just removes you. But making you implement these reforms, making you sit in community forums and hear from passengers, your culture failed. Making your compensation depend on actually solving the problem instead of hiding it. That changes you. And if you change, you can help others change. You become proof. Transformation is possible. She picked up tablet. But understand, I'm not being kind. I'm being strategic. You're more useful as reformed CEO who can speak to other leaders about why they need to change than as fired executive writing bitter memoir. Don't mistake utility for mercy. She walked toward door, turned back. Oh, and Mr. Pierce, I'm starting with Skyward but not stopping here. Once we prove this model works, once we show treating people with dignity is profitable, I'm pushing every airline to adopt it. Your competitors are watching. If you succeed, they'll follow. If you fail, I'll buy them next. She left. Jonathan sat alone looking at demands that would reshape his entire company. He thought about his career, his reputation, his legacy. Then he thought about 12 passengers Derek discriminated against. Ones whose complaints were buried with vouchers. The pattern he'd ignored because confronting it was harder than hiding it. He picked up phone, called his CFO. Linda, I need projections on Garrett's demands. All of them. 1 year, 3 years, 5 years. Best case, worst case, realistic case. Jonathan, some demands are extreme. Just run numbers. I'll call back in an hour. He opened laptop, started drafting email to board. Subject, why we're accepting Garrett's terms. He began typing. 2 hours later, Jonathan sent the email. No video call this time. Just clear data-driven explanation. To Board of Directors, from Jonathan Pierce, CEO. Subject, why we're accepting Garrett's terms. Board members. I'm attaching financial projections from Linda showing why we're accepting Dr. Garrett's terms tonight. The cost. Her reforms, $800 million over 5 years. The savings, $47 million annually reduced employee turnover. Another $30 million annually avoided lawsuits because right now we're constantly settling quietly. Another $60 million annually improved customer retention when satisfaction scores rise. Over 5 years, reforms cost $800 million but save $685 million in operational improvements. Net cost $115 million. That's 2.3% of revenue. This is before accounting for fleet upgrades using her composites, saving another $200 million in fuel efficiency if we fight and lose. Hostile takeover battle legal fees, stock collapse, then implement her reforms anyway. Cost $1.4 billion. Plus I lose my job. Several of you lose board seats. If we accept, I keep position. You keep seats. We spend 5 years rebuilding this company into something we're not ashamed of. Additionally, Linda ran scenarios. If customer satisfaction improves just 10% among minority passengers, that's 400,000 additional bookings annually. At average ticket price, $300, that's $120 million new revenue. The reforms pay for themselves. I've already lost one anniversary dinner to this crisis. I don't want to lose the company too. I'm accepting her terms at 11:47 p.m. tonight. If any board member objects, call me before then. Otherwise, we have work to do. Jonathan. At 11:30 p.m., his phone rang. Bob Hughes. Jonathan, the board voted. 7 in favor. 1 abstention. You have our support. Thank you, Bob. Don't thank us yet. You just agreed to the hardest job you've ever had. I know. At 11:47 p.m. in conference room at Skyward headquarters, documents were signed. Simone Garrett, 60% owner, Jonathan Pierce, CEO reporting to Chairman Garrett. Lawyers shook hands. Notaries applied stamps. Documents scanned and filed electronically with SEC. By law, acquisition would be public by market open. Simone stood extending hand. Welcome to the hardest job you've ever had. He shook it. Thank you for the opportunity. I think. Don't thank me yet. 90 days to show meaningful progress. If I don't see it, I replace you. Understood. And Jonathan, tomorrow morning press conference. You're standing next to me explaining to the world why this happened. Why your pilot felt entitled to discriminate. Why 12 complaints were ignored. Why change required hostile takeover instead of internal reform. He nodded. I'll be there. Good. Because this is your redemption arc. Question is whether you deserve it. She gathered papers and left. Jonathan sat in empty conference room looking at signed documents. He'd just agreed to terms that would fundamentally reshape his company. Terms tying his own compensation to metrics he'd never prioritized. He was terrified, but for first time in career, also hopeful. Because maybe, just maybe, doing the right thing could also be good business. Press conference room at Skyward headquarters was packed beyond capacity. 75 media outlets requested credentials. 200 people squeezed into space designed for 100. Cameras lined back wall. Reporters jockeyed for position. Energy electric. Outside protesters gathered, some supporting Simone. Discrimination has consequences, others more critical. Billionaires buying justice isn't justice. At 9:58 a.m., Simone and Jonathan entered from side door. Simone wore charcoal gray suit, elegant but understated. Jonathan looked like he hadn't slept because he hadn't. They stood behind podium bearing Skyward logo and temporary placard. Under new management. Simone stepped to microphone. Good morning. I'm Dr. Simone Garrett. As of midnight, I'm majority owner and chairman of Skyward Airlines. Cameras flashed like lightning. Reporters leaned forward. I'll make a brief statement, then take limited questions. She glanced at notes, set them aside. On Tuesday evening at 6:45 p.m., I was denied access to my assigned first-class seat. Captain Derek Haines looked at me and decided I didn't belong. Didn't check my pass. Didn't verify identity. Just saw a black woman in casual clothing and made an assumption. Room silent except for clicking keyboards and cameras. This isn't new. Discrimination in aviation happens to black passengers, brown passengers, passengers who don't fit someone's narrow definition of success. What made Tuesday different was, I had resources. Most don't. I had ability to respond with more than a complaint. So I did. She clicked remote, bringing up slide. Last night I acquired 60% of Skyward for $2.3 billion. Not as revenge, but as opportunity for transformation. Slide showed 8 bullet points. Zero tolerance discrimination policy. Independent oversight with community representation. $500 million investment in aviation diversity. Transparent reporting of complaints and resolutions. Victim support including compensation and lifetime benefits. Executive accountability tied to equity metrics. Partnership with historically black colleges for recruitment. Company-wide retraining within 90 days. Some will say this is extreme. I say it's overdue. Captain Haines had 12 prior complaints never meaningfully addressed. How many other employees have similar patterns? How many passengers experienced discrimination but had no recourse? She paused. Reporter called out. Dr. Garrett, critics say you're using wealth to buy justice. How do you respond? Simone looked directly at camera. I'd say those critics are right. I am using wealth to buy justice, because that's the only thing that worked. I tried being polite. I tried presenting credentials. I tried asking for supervisor. None mattered to Captain Haines. What mattered was power. So I used mine. The uncomfortable truth is justice often requires resources. That's not how it should be. But it's how it is. So yes, I bought an airline. And now I'm using that airline to prove treating people with dignity isn't just moral, it's profitable. Another reporter. What message for Captain Haines? Expression softened slightly. I hope he reflects on harm his assumptions caused, not just to me, but to every passenger who experienced his bias and had no power to respond. I hope he uses this for growth. But I also hope he never flies commercially again. Some consequences need to be permanent. Mr. Pierce, why should passengers trust you to implement these reforms? Jonathan stepped forward. They shouldn't, not yet. Trust has to be earned. What I can tell you is for first time in my career, my compensation ties directly to equity metrics. If I fail to create inclusive environment, I lose money. If minority employees continue leaving at high rates, I lose money. If customer satisfaction among minority passengers doesn't improve, I lose money. He paused. I'm no longer incentivized to hide problems. I'm incentivized to solve them. That's fundamentally different business model. And I hope it's better. Dr. Garrett, you mentioned this is bigger than one airline. What do you mean? Simone smiled. I mean, every airline CEO is watching right now. They're calculating whether it's cheaper to implement reforms voluntarily or wait for their own viral moment. I'm hoping they choose reform. But if they don't, I have $3 billion more in acquisition fund. Nervous laughter. You're saying you'll buy other airlines? I'm saying I'll do whatever it takes to ensure passengers aren't discriminated against when they fly. If that means buying airlines, I'll buy airlines. If it means creating industry-wide standards, I'll push for standards. Change is coming. Airlines can be part of it or casualties of it. What about 15,000 employees who didn't discriminate? Are their jobs safe? Absolutely. This isn't about punishing innocent people. It's about transforming culture. Employees who treat passengers with respect have nothing to fear. Employees who don't need other careers. Final question. Do you regret buying the airline? Some analysts say you overpaid. Simone laughed, genuine sound, cutting through formal atmosphere. I'm a materials scientist. I've spent my career optimizing composites for strength and efficiency. Trust me, I know value of strategic investment. I didn't overpay. I invested in change, and change is priceless." She stepped back. "Thank you all. Next public update in 30 days when we report initial progress. Until then, if you'd like to fly Skyward, I promise you'll be treated with dignity regardless of who you are, what you look like, or what assumptions people might make." Press conference ended. As Simone and Jonathan left stage, young black journalists stood and started applauding. Others joined. Not everyone, some reporters maintained professional distance, but enough that sound filled room. It wasn't just applause for Simone. It was applause for possibility of accountability. Angela Torres sat in her new 10th floor office space she'd never imagined occupying. Director of Passenger Experience. Title still felt surreal. First task reviewing 10 years of complaints. What she found made her physically ill. Derek Haines, 12 complaints. Captain James Riley. 9. First Officer David Sullivan. 7. Gate Supervisor Michael Chen. 6. Flight Attendant Linda Morrison. 8. 234 total incidents across 47 employees. Patterns treated as isolated events. Vouchers distributed like Band-Aids over infections. She compiled data into report color-coded by severity, cross-referenced by department and supervisor. Scheduled meetings with HR. "We're terminating 23 employees," she told Jonathan in morning briefing. "Multiple substantiated complaints each, not questionable cases. People who should have been fired years ago." Jonathan looked at list. "Do it. Immediately." Terminations began that afternoon. No quiet resignations, no transfer opportunities, just termination letters citing specific incidents, full documentation. Word spread through company like wildfire. Derek Haines wasn't isolated. He was tip of iceberg. And that iceberg was being demolished chunk by chunk. Training facility in Newark became ground zero. Every Skyward employee, pilots to mechanics, required to attend 5-day intensive. No corporate diversity theater with boring PowerPoints. Real scenarios, real consequences, real discomfort. Day 1. Unconscious bias recognition. Employees watched videos of passenger interactions. After each identified moments where assumptions were made based on appearance. Video showed young black man in hoodie boarding first class. 73% said they'd verify his ticket more carefully. When told he was professional athlete, they looked embarrassed. "That's the problem," trainer said. "You didn't need to know profession to treat him with respect. Hoodie shouldn't change behavior." Day 2. De-escalation. Role-playing scenarios. Tired parents, non-English speakers, disabled passengers needing assistance. Your default should be helpfulness, not suspicion. Trainer emphasized. Start assuming people belong where they are. Verify only when actual evidence of problem, not when someone doesn't meet expectations. Day 3. Body camera review. Employees watched footage from pilot program. Seeing own interactions from passenger perspective devastated some. One flight attendant watched herself serve white passenger with smile, then address black passenger with flat, cold tone. She hadn't realized. She cried during debrief. "I didn't mean to." "Didn't. Intent doesn't matter," trainer said gently. "Impact does. Now you know. Now you change." Day 4. Victim impact. Passengers who'd filed complaints invited to share experiences. Not yelling, just explaining how it felt. One woman described being moved from first class because passenger next to her wasn't comfortable. She'd done nothing wrong, just existed while black. "I paid $800 for that seat," she said, voice breaking. "And the message I got was, my money was good enough, but I wasn't." Room silent except for sniffling. Day 5. New protocols. Employees learned new reporting escalation procedures. Signed documents acknowledging understanding. 67 employees quit, rather than complete training. Good Simone said when informed, "People who can't learn shouldn't be here." First-class attendants began wearing small cameras aviation designed similar to police body cams. Goal wasn't surveillance for surveillance's sake. It was accountability. Within 3 weeks, incidents dropped 83%. Employees knew they were recorded. Passengers knew there was documentation. Dynamic shifted from he said, she said to verifiable evidence. 2 incidents flagged by independent review board. Incident 1. Flight attendant Jennifer Hughes told elderly Asian passenger she needed to speak clearer English when passenger asked for water. Result: Hughes terminated. Passenger received full refund $5,000 compensation lifetime platinum. Incident 2. Pilot Thomas Edwards made comment to co-pilot about passenger's headscarf questioning whether she should be allowed in first class. Result: Edwards terminated. Co-pilot who reported it commended. Message clear: discriminate and you're gone. Customer satisfaction scores began climbing. Minority passengers who'd avoided Skyward started giving second chances. Garrett Foundation announced first aviation scholars. 200 students receiving full scholarships to aviation schools, aerospace programs, flight training. Priority: students who are Black, Indigenous, people of color, first-generation college, underserved communities. Application asked 3 questions. Why aviation? What barriers have you faced? How will you use education to make aviation more inclusive? Responses heartbreaking and inspiring equally. Maria Hernandez from El Paso wrote, "My grandmother cleaned airplanes 30 years. Came home smelling like chemicals, exhausted. I want to fly those planes, design them, show her granddaughter became what she cleaned." Jamal Washington from Detroit. "I've been followed through stores, stopped by police, told I don't belong." Aviation is one industry where competence is life or death. You can't fake flying a plane. I want to prove competence where it can't be denied. Selection committee led by Judge Eleanor and Tyler read every application. Chose based on merit and potential for impact. 203 students selected, announced in June. Media event at Skyward headquarters celebrated them. Simone spoke briefly. "My grandmother was seamstress. My mother was teacher. I became CEO. These students will become pilots, engineers, executives. They'll change this industry from inside. Make sure nobody else experiences what I did at Gate 27. One scholar, 19-year-old Deshaun Johnson, approached after. "Dr. Garrett, I just want to say thank you. I was about to drop out of community college. Couldn't afford it. Now I'm going to flight school. Because of you." Simone hugged him. "No, because of you. I just removed barriers. You did work to deserve this." 6 months post-incident, Skyward released first public accountability report. Data comprehensive, unflinching, available to anyone. Discrimination complaints. Month 1, 47, 23, substantiated, 23 terminated. Month 2, 31, 8 substantiated, 8 terminated. Month 3, 19, 4 substantiated, 4 terminated. Month 4, 12, 2 substantiated, 2 terminated. Month 5, 9, 1 substantiated, 1 terminated. Month 6, 60 substantiated. Employee demographics. Hired 412 new employees, 68% from underrepresented groups. Minority retention up 34%. Female pilot hiring up 41%. Customer satisfaction. Overall satisfaction up 19%. Minority passenger satisfaction up 31%. First-class complaints down 76%. Financial impact. Revenue up 7%, despite industry headwinds. Stock price recovered to pre-incident levels. New corporate clients wanting to support transformation. Media coverage extensive. Business schools started teaching Skyward case. Other airlines began quietly adopting similar policies. United announced Dignity in Travel Initiative. Delta launched Passenger Advocacy Program. American added body cameras for first-class crew. Industry changing. Slowly, but changing. 1 year post-incident, Simone invited to speak at International Air Transport Association conference in Geneva. Every major airline CEO attending. She stood at podium, looking out at leaders who'd once seen her as supplier, not competitor. Year ago, I was told there was no space for me in first class. Today, I chair the airline that denied me. Some call that karma. I call it incentive alignment. First slide. I'm showing you why discrimination is bad for business. Not morally bad, though it is. Not ethically wrong, though it is. Bad for business. Unprofitable, inefficient, wealth-destroying. She walked them through data. Retention costs, lawsuit settlements, reputational damage, lost customers. My airline spent $800 million on reforms. We've already recovered $400 million in operational savings. Within 3 years, we'll be net positive. Plus, stock price up 23%. She showed competitor data airlines still fighting lawsuits, settling quietly, losing customers. You can keep doing that. Keep hiding complaints. Keep settling quietly. Keep losing money. Or learn from our example. Final slide. The cost of dignity. $0. Treating people with respect doesn't cost anything. What costs money is discrimination, lawsuits, settlements, retraining after scandals, reputational damage. Equity isn't luxury. It's efficiency. After speech, 3 airline CEOs approached privately. Wanted consultation. Wanted to know how to implement similar reforms before their own viral moments. Simone smiled. Change was spreading. Angela stood at podium at Aviation Industry Leadership Conference in Chicago. 500 industry professionals watching. Year ago, she'd been flight attendant afraid to speak. Now, director reshaping policy at major airline. 2 years ago, I stayed silent when I witnessed discrimination. She began without notes. Told myself I couldn't afford to lose my job. Bills, family obligations, real constraints. Pause. But silence isn't free either. Every time I stayed quiet, I paid a price. In self-respect, integrity, ability to look at myself in mirror. I convinced myself I was being pragmatic. Really, I was being complicit. Day. I finally spoke up. Day I texted HR about Captain Haines. I was terrified. Thought I'd be fired. Instead, I was promoted. Because Dr. Garrett understood something I didn't. People who stay silent aren't protecting jobs. They're protecting culture that will eventually consume everyone. She pulled up slides showing complaint processing data. Since starting as director, we've processed 847 complaints, investigated everyone, substantiated 312, terminated 47 employees, and our customer satisfaction all-time high. She looked directly at audience. You might think firing 47 people hurt morale. It didn't. It helped. Because good employees ones already treating passengers with dignity, they finally felt safe. Weren't covering for bad actors. Weren't undermined by colleagues making everyone look bad. Accountability isn't punishment. It's protection. Protects good employees from association with discrimination. Protects customers from harm. Protects companies from financial and reputational damage of tolerating bias. After speech, young flight attendant approached. Ms. Torres, I work for another airline. I've seen discriminatory things, but I'm scared to report. What if they fire me instead? Angela took her hands. Record everything. Document everything. When you're ready, speak up. Industry's changing. Slowly, but changing. Your voice matters. What if nothing changes? Then you'll know you tried. That's not nothing. Tyler's film, No Space Stories of Aviation Discrimination, premiered at Sundance to standing ovation. 90-minute documentary opened with his Gate 27 footage, Simone standing calm, while Derek denied boarding. but that was entry point. Film expanded to include the Rodriguez family. Luis and Carmen, with 3 children, moved from first to economy because kids were disruptive before takeoff. Kids were reading quietly. Footage showed them sitting still while white passengers' children ran through aisles without comment. Ahmed al-Rashid, American citizen born Michigan, questioned about visa on domestic flight. Flight attendant insisted he was suspicious based solely on Arabic name and beard. He was mathematics professor at Northwestern. Linda Chen, elderly Chinese immigrant told to speak clearer English. She'd been speaking perfectly clear English, just had accent. Same attendant spoke slowly loudly to her as if volume would overcome non-existent language barrier. Marcus Johnson, disabled passenger, told he couldn't handle first class because he used wheelchair. Gate agent insisted first class required full mobility. Marcus was Paralympic athlete. Each story told through interviews, documentation, video footage when available. Tyler spent 18 months tracking down passengers, compiling stories into mosaic of pattern and impact. Film's final act focused on aftermath of Simone's takeover, reforms, accountability, change. Ended with stark statistic. Skyward Airlines is one of 180 commercial airlines worldwide. This is story of one changing. There are 179 more to go. Major streaming services bid. Netflix won with $8 million offer. Film launched globally 2 months post-Sundance. Within weeks became one of most watched documentaries of year. Social media flooded with stories using the hashtag. Celebrities amplified, politicians referenced, aviation groups couldn't ignore. FAA announced new guidelines on discrimination reporting, citing Tyler's film as evidence of industry-wide problem. Eleanor retired from bench, but retirement didn't mean stopping. She joined Simone's independent review board, brought 3 decades legal expertise to accountability process, her role ensuring due process while demanding accountability. One case illustrated balance. Case 147, Captain Robert Harrison. Harrison accused of making discriminatory comment. Black passenger Kevin Thompson reported, "Harrison said, 'Surprised to see you in first class, must be special occasion.' Evidence thin. No video, no audio. Just Kevin's word against Harrison's. Most boards would dismiss. He said she said rarely resulted in termination." Eleanor dug deeper, interviewed nearby passengers, reviewed Harrison's file, found 3 similar complaints over 5 years, comments about being surprised to see minority passengers in first class. Pattern. She recommended termination. Not because of single incident, but pattern it revealed. Harrison appealed, claiming he was being railroaded by woke politics. Eleanor personally handled appeal hearing. Walked him through each complaint, each documented comment, each assumption based on appearance. "Captain Harrison, you've flown 19 years. You're competent pilot. Nobody questions technical skills. But competence doesn't excuse bias. And pattern reveals character. I never meant. Intent doesn't erase impact. You've made passengers feel unwelcome. Multiple passengers. Multiple years. That's not mistake. That's who you choose to be." She denied appeal. Harrison left aviation, took job at logistics company, told people he was forced out by political correctness. But privately in therapy he started post-termination, he began confronting assumptions. Would take years. But work was beginning. Jonathan spoke at Harvard Business School Leadership Forum. 400 MBA students. Most humbling year of his career. I want to discuss a night that changed my life. Tuesday, October 10th. My anniversary. Got call that pilot discriminated against passenger. Rushed to airport thinking I'd do damage control. Instead got education. He described Gate 27 scene, videos, witnesses, realization his airline had been hiding problems for years. Dr. Garrett bought my company that night. Not because she wanted to own Airline, because she wanted to change one, and she forced me to confront something I'd been avoiding. I'd built company that protected power over people. He pulled up slides showing compensation structure before and after. Here's what happened to my pay. 40% now tied to diversity metrics, employee retention, customer satisfaction among minority passengers, progress on equity. If I fail, I lose money. A lot. Some asked, doesn't that feel punitive? I told them no. It feels appropriate. For years, I had no incentive to prioritize equity. Now I do. Financial interests finally aligned with moral outcomes. Next slide showed transformation data. Here's what we learned. Treating people with dignity is profitable. Revenue up. Customer satisfaction up. Employee retention up. We're not succeeding despite reforms. We're succeeding because of them. Student raised hand. Mr. Pierce, do you regret how you ran company before Jonathan paused? Every day. I regret passengers we failed, employees we protected who shouldn't have had jobs, culture we built that made discrimination possible. But regret without action is just self-pity. So I'm using this platform to tell other CEOs, don't wait for viral moment. Don't wait until someone buys your company to force change. Do it now. Because it's right. And because it works. After speech, several CEOs approached. Wanted advice on implementing similar reforms. Jonathan provided it freely. He'd learned something crucial. Transformation isn't proprietary. It's contagious. And contagious change was exactly what industry needed. Skyward headquarters ballroom glittered under chandeliers. 300 people celebrating 1 year of transformation. Employees, scholars, industry leaders, media, community advocates. Video screens showed statistics. Discrimination complaints down 94%. Employee diversity up 47%. Customer satisfaction highest in history. Stock price up 23% from pre-incident. 15 airlines adopted similar policies. 203 students in first cohort 100% retention. Judge Eleanor served as MC. Year ago, Simone Garrett was told there was no space for her in first class. Tonight we celebrate all the space she's created since. Applause-filled room. Simone took stage in elegant navy dress, simple pearl earrings, same understated confidence from Gate 27. Good evening. She clicked remote, bringing up photo her mother Grace at 74, beaming with pride. That's my mother. She taught me something at 14 after we were followed through department store by security guard who assumed we were there to steal. She said, baby, you can't control how people see you, but you can control how you respond. Pause. I've thought about that lesson every day this year, because transformation isn't about punishment. It's about rebuilding, creating structures where respect is default, not exception. She gestured to audience. In this room are people who made that possible. She named them Angela, who risked her job, Eleanor, who brought legal expertise, Tyler, whose camera captured evidence for change. Each stood received applause, and here she gestured to section where young faces beamed are the scholars. 203 brilliant minds reshaping this industry from inside. Scholars stood together, some crying, some grinning, all transformed. You're not charity cases, you're investments. Investments in future where aviation looks like America, where people flying planes and designing them and leading companies reflect diversity of passengers. She turned to specific student in front row. Maria Hernandez, come up here. Maria, 19, from El Paso, approached nervously. Tell them what you told me in your application. Maria took microphone hands, shaking. I wrote that my grandmother cleaned airplanes 30 years, came home exhausted, smelling like chemicals. I said I wanted to fly those planes, design them, show her granddaughter became what she cleaned. Voice broke. Last month I got my private pilot license. My grandmother was at ceremony. She cried. Said, Mija, you're flying now. Room erupted. Simone hugged Maria, turned back to crowd. That's what this year has been about. Not revenge, not punishment. Opportunity. Creating space where it didn't exist. Lights dimmed. Video began on screen. Derek Haines appeared. Room gasped. Some booed. Others fell silent. Derek looked older, humbled, sitting in what appeared to be community center surrounded by teenagers. My name is Derek Haines. Year ago, I cost someone their dignity because I made assumptions based on race. He paused, gathering himself. I lost my career. I deserved to. But more importantly, I hurt Dr. Garrett and countless others before her. 12 passengers filed complaints. 12 times I dismissed people, questioned them, made them prove they belonged. I'm in therapy now, confronting biases I didn't know I had, and I'm working at this community center teaching kids about aviation, trying to give back somehow. He looked at camera. Dr. Garrett, if you're watching, I don't expect forgiveness. Don't deserve it. But I want you to know your response to my discrimination taught me more than decades of flying. You showed me accountability matters, that consequences change behavior, that transformation is possible even for someone like me. Video ended. Simone stood at podium, expression unreadable. I didn't invite Derek here, but I wanted you to see that video because accountability isn't about destruction. It's about consequences that lead to growth. Derek will never fly commercially again. That's appropriate. But him teaching kids who've been told they don't belong, that's restorative. We don't have to forgive everyone, but we can create structures where even people who cause harm have opportunities to become better, not for their sake, for sake of their potential future victims. Judge Eleanor stood. That's difference between justice and revenge. Justice transforms. Revenge just destroys. Jonathan approached stage. He and Simone stood side by side, CEO, who'd enabled discrimination through negligence, and woman who'd bought his company to fix it. Year ago, I thought I was running successful airline, Jonathan said. I was wrong. I was running profitable airline that failed moral obligations. There's difference. He turned to Simone. Dr. Garrett gave me something I didn't deserve chance to be better, to learn, to lead differently. I'm still learning. Every day. How has your perspective changed? Someone called. I used to think equity and efficiency were trade-offs, that prioritizing inclusion meant sacrificing performance. I was wrong about that too. Our best quarter ever happened 3 months ago. Highest employee retention. Most innovative solutions. Because when you stop wasting energy hiding problems, you can use that energy solving them. Simone added. This isn't over. One airline changing isn't enough. 15 airlines adopting similar policies isn't enough. Work continues until discrimination in aviation has consequences so immediate and costly that it becomes economically irrational. We're not there yet, but we're closer than a year ago. That's progress. Ceremony ended with toast. To space, Eleanor said, raising glass. May there always be enough of it. For everyone. 300 glasses raised. Outside protesters who'd been there at dawn had gone home. Story wasn't about outrage anymore. It was about transformation. And transformation, unlike outrage, was built to last. After gala, after speeches and toasts and photographs, Simone stood alone on observation deck of Skyward headquarters. Building overlooked JFK. She could see Terminal 5, where Gate 27 had been site of humiliation and eventually triumph. Planes took off every 90 seconds, lights blinking against dark autumn sky, carrying people to destinations she'd helped make more equitable. Exhaustion hit her. Satisfaction, too. But also uncertainty. Had she done enough? Would it last? Footsteps behind her. Judge Eleanor joined at railing, 2 glasses of wine in hand, offered one to Simone. "You did something remarkable tonight." "Did I?" Simone's voice quiet. "Sometimes feels like I just rearranged furniture in burning house. Structure still flawed, problem still there. House is better, not perfect, but better. That's all any of us can do, make things better for next person." Simone sipped wine, crisp Chardonnay, sharp on tongue. "I keep thinking about all the people who experienced what I did but didn't have power to fight back. Ones who just had to take it. Smile, accept voucher, move to economy, pretend it didn't hurt. That's why you built foundation, why you created scholarships. You're giving them power. It's not enough. It's more than anyone else did. Simone, you changed entire industry in 1 year. Understand how rare that is?" Simone turned to look at her. "You've spent 32 years fighting for justice. Do you ever feel like it's pointless? Like problems are too big, too entrenched?" Eleanor smiled sadly. "Every day. But then I remember something my mentor told me when I was a young lawyer. You can't save everyone, but you can save someone. And that someone has family, friends, life that ripples outward. You're not saving one person. You're saving everyone they touch. How many people have I touched? 203 scholars. That's 203 careers launched. Each will mentor others, hire others, create opportunities for others. In 20 years could be 10,000 people in aviation whose paths trace back to what you did at Gate 27. Simone felt tears prickling. Blinked them away. My mother called after press conference. She was crying. Said, "Baby, you did what I couldn't do when they followed me through that store. You fought back. Did you tell her you were thinking of her when you stood your ground? No. Didn't need to. She knew." They stood in comfortable silence, watching planes take off and land, choreographed ballet of modern aviation, continuing regardless of conversation. Eleanor spoke again. "Can I tell you something about why I agreed to join your board? Please. I've presided over hundreds of discrimination cases. Corporate defendants always say same things. We take complaints seriously. We have policies. This was isolated. Then discovery reveals truth complaints, buried policies, ignored pattern after pattern, covered up." Voice tightened with old anger. "Once had case where black employee complained about harassment 23 times over 5 years. 23 times. Each complaint investigated and resolved. When we got to trial, discovered every investigation conducted by harasser's supervisor who was his friend. Whole system designed to protect him, not her. What happened? We won. 4.7 million verdict. But that woman already left company. Left industry. Gave up on career because fighting was too exhausting. Money didn't give back those lost years." Eleanor turned to face Simone fully. "You're doing something different. Not just winning cases, dismantling system that creates cases, making discrimination expensive, making equity profitable, making accountability inevitable. That's not rearranging furniture. That's rebuilding foundation." Simone wiped eyes, no longer hiding tears. "Thank you. Don't thank me. Just keep going. Because moment you stop pushing, moment you relax, old patterns will try creeping back. Transformation requires constant vigilance." "I know. That's what terrifies me." Tyler found them on deck, phone in hand as always. "Dr. Garrett, Judge Walsh. Sorry to interrupt." "It's fine, Tyler." "What is it?" He showed phone screen video compilation from tonight's gala. Scholars laughing. Angela crying happy tears. Jonathan looking genuinely humbled. "I wanted you to see before posting." They watched silently. 3 minutes instrumental music capturing emotion and hope. ended with statistic. 1 year ago, 234 discrimination incidents were buried at this airline. Tonight, 203 students are flying toward dreams that almost didn't exist. "That's beautiful," Simone said. "But that's not why I wanted to show you." Tyler scrolled to messages. "Look, hundreds of messages, each one a story. I'm Latina pilot. Quit aviation 3 years ago because of discrimination. After watching Tyler's documentary, I'm going back. Thank you. I'm white guy who never thought about privilege." Dr. Garrett's story opened my eyes. Just reported colleagues' racist comment I would have ignored before. My daughter's 14, wants to be aerospace engineer. She's black, and I was worried about her facing discrimination. Seeing Dr. Garrett's courage gives me hope. Page after page of impact. Real people whose trajectories shifted because Simone refused to accept injustice quietly. Tyler, how many views did documentary get last count? 47 million. Across all platforms. I had no idea. People are hungry for this. Not just for justice, watching bad people get punished, but for proof that fighting back works. That one person with courage can change structures. You gave them that proof. Angela and 5 flight attendants appeared on deck still in uniforms. "Just finished shift, wanted to see Simone before going home," Dr. Garrett Angela said, breathless. "We wanted to thank you. Again, you don't need to." "Yes, we do. Today something happened. Passenger made racist comment to another passenger. Old me would have pretended not to hear, avoided confrontation, stayed silent. What did you do?" "I stopped boarding. Called supervisor, had passenger removed. When he threatened to sue, I said go ahead. We have body camera footage and 50 witnesses." Other attendants nodded. One spoke. "Last week I reported pilot for inappropriate comments. Fired within 48 hours. System actually works now." Another. "My teenage daughter wants to be pilot. Before told her to pick something more realistic. Now, helping her apply for Garrett Scholarship." Fourth, "I'm Mexican-American, flown 12 years. Followed through employee areas by security 3 times last year, thought I was janitorial, not crew. Since reforms, 0 times. People actually look at uniform instead of skin." Simone felt weight of their gratitude, hope, relief. Almost too much. "You didn't need me to be brave. You needed permission. Needed system that protected you instead of punishing you for speaking up. I just created that system." "You gave us more than permission," Angela said, voice thick. "You gave us proof that speaking up matters, that consequences are real, that change is possible." She hugged Simone. Others joined. Group embrace on observation deck overlooking airport that had been site of discrimination, now launching pad for transformation. Eventually, everyone left. Eleanor to catch late flight. Tyler to edit and post video. Angela and crew to go home. Simone stood alone, city lights of New York stretching below, planes still taking off and landing in endless rhythm. She pulled out phone-opened notes, read entry from exactly 1 year ago. "Tonight I was told I don't belong. Tomorrow I'll show them exactly where I belong. Everywhere." She added new entry, 1 year later. "I didn't just take my seat. I changed who gets to sit down. Work isn't finished. Will never be finished. But tonight I can rest knowing it started. Knowing that somewhere young black girl who wants to be pilot will see my story and think I can do that too. And maybe she won't have to buy Airline first. Maybe she'll just fly one." Plane took off in front of her lights, blinking red and white against darkness, climbing steadily toward cruising altitude. Simone watched it rise, imagining passengers inside. Some nervous, some excited. Some just trying to get home. And all of them, every single one, had boarded without being told they didn't belong. She smiled. "There's space for everyone now," she whispered to night sky. Plane disappeared into clouds, carrying people toward futures they'd reached despite system once designed to keep some out. But now that system was different. Not perfect, never perfect, but better. And better was enough to build on. 3 months after the gala, the FAA announced the Garrett Aviation Equity Standards, federal framework based on Skyward's transformation. 15 airlines adopted protocols within 6 weeks. 8 more were forced to after their own discrimination incidents went viral, captured by passengers who'd learned from Tyler's example that documentation creates accountability. The pattern spread faster than anyone expected. United announced dignity in travel. Delta launched passenger advocacy. American added body cameras. Southwest created independent review boards. The industry wasn't perfect, never would be, but it was better. Complaints were investigated, bad actors removed, and passengers once invisible started being seen. Angela consulted for 6 airlines building accountability structures that actually worked. Judge Eleanor's protocols became industry standard taught in aviation schools and corporate training. Tyler's documentary became required viewing for new hires at 23 airlines worldwide. The system was changing structure by structure, policy by policy, assumption by assumption. Simone stepped back from daily airline operations after 18 months appointing Angela as CEO. A move that made headlines but felt inevitable to anyone who'd watched Angela's transformation from silent witness to fearless leader. She refocused on Garrett Advanced Materials and the Foundation, expanding scholarships to 500 students annually, adding aerospace engineering fellowships, pilot training grants, and executive mentorship programs. On the 2nd anniversary, she received over 30,000 messages from people inspired to speak up, stand firm, or demand their space in rooms where they'd been told they didn't belong. She couldn't respond to them all, but read everyone crying through some, laughing at others, feeling the weight of impact she'd never imagined when she stood at gate 27 refusing to move. Her mother framed the boarding pass from that day 1A, the seat she was denied, and hung it in her kitchen next to photos of Simone receiving her PhD, launching her company, and shaking hands with Jonathan Pierce after buying the airline. Remember where you've been, Grace told her daughter during a visit, so you never forget why you fight. 5 years after a captain looked at Dr. Simone Garrett and saw someone who didn't belong, the first class of Garrett scholars graduated. 89 aerospace engineers, 47 pilots, 36 aviation mechanics, 21 air traffic controllers, all from communities historically locked out of aviation. They didn't just join the industry, they began reshaping it, designing more fuel-efficient aircraft, creating equitable hiring practices, mentoring the next generation, proving that diversity wasn't charity, but innovation catalyst. Captain Derek Haines never flew commercially again, but he did help launch an aviation program at a youth detention center, teaching kids society had written off that the sky had room for them too. And Simone. She still flew commercial, always first class, always seat 1A. And no one, not once in 5 years, ever questioned whether she belonged there again. If this story moved you, I need to hear from you. Have you ever been told you don't belong somewhere you had every right to be? Have you ever watched someone else experience that moment and wished you'd spoken up? Drop your story in the comments below. Not for sympathy, but for solidarity. Because when we share our truth, we give someone else permission to share theirs. And that's how movements start. One voice at a time, one story at a time, one person deciding they're done, staying silent. Hit that like button if this story resonated with you. Smash that subscribe button because we're just getting started with these stories of justice, accountability, and transformation. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it. That friend who's been told they're too much or not enough. That family member who's faced discrimination and doesn't know if fighting back is worth it. That colleague who's witnessed injustice and stayed silent. Send them this story. Let them know they're not alone. And remember this. When someone tells you there's no space for you, when they look at you and decide you don't belong, when they make assumptions based on your skin, your clothes, your accent, your anything, you have choices. You can accept it. You can complain quietly. Or you can do what Dr. Simone Garrett did. You can stand your ground. Document everything. Demand accountability. And show them exactly what happens when they underestimate the wrong person. Because here's the truth they don't want you to know. You belong everywhere you choose to be. Every seat you pay for. Every room you walk into. Every space you occupy. You belong there. Not because of your credentials, not because of your bank account, not because of anything you have to prove. You belong there because you're human, and that's enough. Thanks for watching. Drop those comments, hit those buttons, share this story. And until next time, keep standing firm, keep demanding your space, and keep changing the world one moment of courage at a time.